Welcome to our Portuguese Table podcast. I'm Maria Lawton, the Azorean Green Bean.
And I'm Angela Simoes, and we're just two chicks dishing about Portuguese food, culture, and what it means to be Portuguese.
So grab a glass of vinho or un copo de café and join us as we talk about our favorite foods, reminisce about growing up Portuguese,
and interview some of our community's most successful chefs and food writers.
So sit down at our Portuguese table.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of our Portuguese Table. Bem-vindo. Hello, Maria. How are you?
I am doing well, honey. And how are you?
I am doing quite well today. It's a Monday today. We're recording on a Monday, and The sun is out. And how did you survive the storms?
We had what was like the nor'easter from hell. And it's the winter that will not go away. And I'm expecting more snow this week.
More?
Yes.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we're getting more. So we're only a couple of days away from spring, but winter is clinging on. And
wow.
I've had it.
You're like, I can't make any more soup. I'm tired of making soup.
Yes. And that's exactly it. I hear the snow coming. I start baking. I start making soup. I start doing all of these things because if I lose electricity, such a pain in the neck.
Right.
And I told my husband, this is never, hopefully it'll change, but I guess I need to get a generator attached to my home because I just hate the whole thing. But I digress. We are not talking about weather today,
No.
folks.
But
No.
Our guest is also from the East Coast, and he can tell us if he got hit with the storm as well. But I'm super excited about this one because I actually tried to go. I actually tried to go to this place in Jersey City, and they were closed, and I was so bummed. So, but we'll talk about that. And so let's bring in Michael Casalinho from Broa Cafe. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, welcome, ladies. How are you? Bem-vindos. All of us together here. How is everyone doing?
I know, we're doing well. We're at this Portuguese table. I know. I've got something I'm nibbling on. I don't know about you guys, but
well, I've got this. This is very appropriate for a pregnant woman. I've got a hard-boiled egg and a brownie. How about that?
That's a great combination.
Wow.
Yeah, a little bit of protein, a little bit of sugar. It kind of balances out.
I don't know if I should share this, but I don't know, Michael, if you're married and you have children and you've gone through this, but our poor husbands who have to go through, finding stuff for us if we have certain cravings. But I remember one time I had my husband wake up I think it was 4:00 in the morning. I woke him up because I wanted this lemon-filled donut. And he's like, honey, it's 4:00 in the morning. The bakery's not even open.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I would have at least waited until the morning. But
No.
Pregnant women and their desires, right? At all hours of the night. Unfortunately, I'm not married, and unfortunately, I don't have any kids.
Eligible bachelor lady.
I am. Unfortunately, I was with someone for quite a while, but unfortunately, we just didn't work out. It's one of the downfalls from being a restaurant owner and a chef is, the schedule's a little madness. So you chefs have up and down dating relationships, I guess, and until you find an understanding woman who is willing to put up with all of it, you're
Michael,
pretty much a bachelor forever.
Yeah, no, we can put the word out there, Michael, that you're looking for a nice Portuguese girl.
Maybe she'll want to manage your restaurant.
Yes.
Hey, that would be great.
She'll manage the front end.
Goes a long way.
But
yes. We can make it happen.
We can. But let's get into
let's do it.
So you're not married, but you are married to your restaurant, which is the case for
right.
many restaurateurs. So tell us about yourself and how you got started and just give us the background, and then we can delve into all the yummy things that you're serving at your restaurant, because I was looking at some pictures, and you serve some very traditional things, and they just look delicious. Anxious to hear about how people react to that. So give us the scoop.
I do, and I try to really stick within the kind of what I call the grandma boundaries, which I think that a lot of people, there's a lot of amazing chefs out there who are self-inspired in doing Portuguese cuisine. But I just, for a long time now, I thought, I grew up in the Portuguese Ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey, where, every 5 steps you take, you're either in front of a Portuguese market or a newsstand or cafe. So,
Yep.
I grew up in the environment, and there's a restaurant on literally every other corner. And I just, started to, after dining around in many places, there is, I felt there was a little bit of a lack of a real tradition kind of understanding, whereas most non-Portuguese people tend to steer in the direction of what I call the Portuguese American restaurant. And, again, not knocking anyone, we're all in this together, but I feel like somewhere along the lines, most restaurateurs who've been around for many years kind of lost sight of maybe their true passion and meaning behind a restaurant. And, I can relate, because at times you just get caught up so much in what's going on, and the customers and what they want and the feedback and all that we end up, it almost kind of like the American way. Once you're in too deep, you kind of just say, what the heck, I'm just going to let the ball keep rolling. I'm in business, and customers are coming, they must like it. Whereas I guess I'm very different in that way, where I just decided that, why is it that when you want, authentic French cuisine, you can go to, many French restaurants, and, where the chef is French and the wait staff is French and everybody's French, all the wines are French, everything is just French everywhere.
Yep.
And you're just in that environment, and, and for a moment, you actually feel like you're in France. That you took that trip, you're on vacation for a moment, and it's almost like for the hour or 2 or 3 or 4 that you're dining, it's almost as if nothing else matters. You're so into your dining experience, and you believe you're in France, and it's just a really good feeling. And I mean, same thing with Italian. There's a lot of Italian restaurants now. Or becoming more, authenticated in their ways of serving and doing things. Where again, I just felt like we weren't doing that in terms of Portuguese food. That we're very underrated. And that many people, what they seem to believe is Portuguese food, in my opinion, really is not Portuguese food. It is, but it's been Americanized. And I felt like, in order for you to really understand who we are as Portuguese people and where we came from, that it is important to provide people with the origins. Like, many stories, grandmother telling me, they were clearly from a poor part in Portugal. My grandma was left by herself with my mother and my uncle, and they really had no money, so they had to figure it out, so like many other people in Portugal, in those times, and you just had to plant your cabbage and your lettuce and your beans and your tomatoes, and you figured it out, and you gathered your pennies and your escudos at the time to go down. My grandmother heard stories. She used to take like 3 buses and walk 5 miles just to go to the market, and she spent literally all her money buying, some chickens, a pig that she would then break down and make, chorizas, our cured smoked sausages, the blood pudding sausage, our morcella. and it's, that all has history that I felt, people should know why we eat,
Yeah.
pig
We
ears and all
right.
that kind of radical stuff. And we had no choice.
Right.
In those days.
Michael, I think we have a beautiful story to tell. I think the Portuguese story is a beautiful story because it comes from in the same place that you said the French and the Italians. They very well tell a story, and you're right. You're absolutely right. There's lots of times where you go in and you see they say, oh, it's a Portuguese restaurant, and you go in and it is Americanized because they're thinking, we have to appease or appeal to have a broader stroke. But at the same time, you kind of diminish that story of ours. And because if you go into some great Italian restaurants, they're not going to give you an excuse of, well, we've got Americanized stuff because we wanted to make sure that, so-and-so also enjoys it, and we've got chicken fingers here for them. So it's just it doesn't work.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on that.
It just does not work. And what you're saying with your grandmother and that story, that it is part of you. That is part of where you came from.
Right. Well, it essentially is part of us all Portuguese.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is our story because none of us came from castles. No one came from, these wealthy, whatever monarchs anywhere. We came from working class people and the ones that worked the land or the sea, and we have to be proud of that. But I'm looking at all of the food that you have on your Facebook page. I'm right now on your Facebook page, and I just saw favas guisadas. Now, fava beans, I love fava beans. So to have fava nova, which is the green fava, in a stew with the poached egg is just, for me, it just brings me back to me shelling the fava beans for my mom or my grandmother to make that stew.
Right, and it's something so simple and all made right from ingredients in the backyard, there's really nothing to it. And I just feel that in general, cuisine, food, culinary world in general, people have, I just feel that everyone, it's a hard place to be in to begin with, to work in, to deal with people on a constant basis, different palates, different likings, and now you have all these new allergy stuff and gluten-free and things like that, which are they're insane, to think, and to be honest with you guys, I really don't accommodate much to any of that, because not that I'm a bad guy or I'm anti-allergies or anything like that. I really am trying to be as real and authentic and legitimate as can be. I want to, I'm trying to be that place that, you go in, some suburban area in Portugal where I'm from, for example, and there's this little tavern, this little tasca just sitting there, and it's been handed down from generation to generation. You're not walking in there and telling the guy, listen, I'm gluten-free. Can you, it's just not going to happen, So, not that I'm anti any of that. I just, what, listen, I'm sorry. I try to say, listen, we don't, vegetarians, vegans, look, I don't really do that. Portuguese people, unfortunately, we're big fish and meat people, pork especially. There's not much I can really do. I can whip something up, I'll do some grillos, some broccoli rabe sauteed with some garlic and, or something like that, just to try to, satisfy them. But, my go-tos are the salada de grão, the chickpea, with some sweet onion, parsley chopped up. If you like the fish, I do some Portuguese tuna, I throw it in there, you mix it around. You can even hard-boiled leg, you slice it up, boom, you have yourself an amazing, fiber-rich meal. You have all your nutrients, everything you need right there, and that's what we survived. Oh, our parents and us as kids growing up, that's what we survived on. Or or you do the salada de frado, the black eyed peas, the red pepper, red onion, fresh parsley, which goes very well paired with sardines, right out of the can. And, there's so many things really about us that people have no idea about, and again, going into the sardines, our canned goods, normally you think canned goods and people are like, ugh, canned fish. Oh,
They are
my
the
God.
best. They are the best.
Literally the best in the world. We have the best canned fish in the world, and it's already been executed on the Bourdain show and Andrew Zimmerman and all these food guys that, hey, look, this fish comes literally off the boat into a warehouse, literally right off the pier. There's 20 women sitting in there with knives, and they're literally filleting you sardines, shoving them in the can, and they get, buried in olive oil, and bam, you have yourself, cured sardines in a can. I mean, how it's the best.
Yeah.
In my opinion, fish. And I've done some research as well, and canned fish seems to be some of the healthiest ways to eat fish in the world. Period. Just because it's preserved in olive oil, and it's literally right out of the sea into the can. So all the the nutritions and the health benefits of that are in that can. So once you open it, you have all the essentials you need.
Yeah,
and that's, those little fun facts that, people just don't know, that I try to, basically I try to give people a full experience. So I built the place really as a kind of like a cultural gathering experience, a place where you can come and dine, and learn a little bit about our culture, the history. Unfortunately, we did have some bad times, some bad years, which aren't the greatest things to talk about. But what, from those bad years that we had of conquering and, in certain circumstances, some kind of slaving or whatever, but I mean, it's not our fault. We have nothing to do with that. But from all that bad stuff came really amazing good things, that we've shared around the world and they've shared with us. There's a lot of fun facts. For example, I'm not sure you guys know, but we introduced curry to India.
Yes, we did.
I had heard that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
So I use curry in a lot of dishes, and people are like, "What, curry? This is not Portuguese."
Yeah.
Excuse me, no, it's more Portuguese than you are Indian.
Correct.
It's kind of those little things people don't know, or our azulejos, our beautiful blue and white tiles. We picked up that technique from Japan and Macau's and all that, and they adapted our pastel de nata,
right?
And all of this, it's amazing to know its history, and it's also involves the food and things that people had no idea, and they still don't. Many people have no idea, So I kind of educate the staff. All my staff is pretty much Portuguese, and a few are Brazilian. And it's, we try to educate the people. People ask, "Oh, why, what is this?" And, "Oh, well, we eat this because of that." Or, we're cooking with curry because Portuguese introduced curry. So we do, Goa and places like that. So I try to do spin-off dishes occasionally on the menu. And things like that.
Now, I know there's a lot of different chefs out there that are introducing a lot of that fusion cooking that comes from our cooking, and that is, one of them is Macanese, which is China in Macau, and our presence, the Portuguese presence in Macau. That if you go there, you are, like you said, you have the pastel de nata there, but then there's a whole different way that they cook there that's called Macanese, which is a fusion of the part of China along with the Portuguese spices and all. And there is a chef, if I'm not mistaken, he's in Chicago, and he wrote a book, and as a matter of fact, I got it just the other day, and I've got to go through it. And it's called The Adventures of Fat Rice. And
it's
he's Macanese. He went back to Macau, and he's put together all of these amazing dishes, and using codfish, using all of the same, but infusing some of the all of the other techniques. And you read it and you go, oh my God, my mom made something like this, or oh my God,
I'm very familiar with.
It's just, it blows you away. And when you tell people who are the food snobs and who think, that, the French only did it a certain way, or the Italians only did it a certain way, we've got to kind of educate them and say, you know what, before that, but,
right.
Athens,
that bothers
was,
me.
Athens, Greece was like the first civilized capital. The second one was not Rome.
Yeah.
It was in Portugal. It was Lisbon. It was, we've been around so long, and we have done so much. It's just that for whatever reason, we tend to be, or our predecessors tended to be, very quiet, and just assimilated, protected, kept it in our own little world, and didn't share it with everyone. And now it's a whole new breed of people that are coming out of it. Now we're talking about first generation, second, third, fourth, that are looking back on their ancestry and saying, hey, I want to know more about this. Or, oh, what about this? And I think it's because of all that. And I think now the world is definitely discovering Portugal.
Oh we're definitely living in a very curious society, where people are again starting to experiment and dabble in that, and kind of touching on what you were saying before. Yeah, I mean it's what really bothers me a lot is that somewhere along the lines, and this is what makes my job very difficult as a chef and as a restaurant owner, and is that all of a sudden, everybody's a food critic. Everybody's Portuguese. Everybody's French. Everybody's Italian. Everybody knows what's real and what isn't. I mean, and then you've had things like Yelp and things like that have opened up the horizons to all these people. And I mean, I personally don't pay any mind to that stuff because
that's really great. That's great to hear.
Whatever.
Yeah, you know what? I know Angela and I are both very good friends with some chefs, and one of, I think he's just an amazing chef out in California, and he's Portuguese. He's got a Portuguese place, and he's got people who, I went to Portugal once. This is their review on Yelp.
Yeah.
I went to Portugal once, and his flavor is not Portuguese. And we're talking about,
all of a sudden they're the expert, right?
They're the expert.
That drives me crazy, man.
How can you, now you're an expert because you've traveled to Portugal and you've eaten there, a few times, and now you're going to a restaurant where there is a Portuguese chef creating Portuguese dishes, and you write on there that it's not Portuguese. It's just
it's absurd. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the society we live in, the world we're living in at the moment. And just a lot of things have kind of ruined it for us in a way, or I believe us, not just the Portuguese but restaurant guys and chefs is. All these shows, the Chef's Table and things. I personally, I love the show. I'm a big fan, but the way they portray things, all nice and lavish and beautiful and clean and everything's perfect. And, that's really, it's not 100% like that. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of mess, a lot of things that go into creating, a good environment and food and, products. And I think that has kind of, ruined it a bit, and people forgot the origins of food. And I say all the time, people just forgot to eat. They don't know how to eat. If it doesn't have some kind of flour on it, it's not food. That's what, unfortunately, what has become of certain things. And then you have, a lot of great places closing down because of that kind of stuff, because people can't get that association of, oh, it doesn't have some kind of, lavender or rose pet or whatever on it. And it's not okay. It's not real. And that unfortunately, is one of the main reasons why I also do what I do, is because, you know what, I honestly, and maybe I'm a little selfish when it comes to this, or Broa, because I have other things in the works, but Broa is very special to me because it touched me in the heart. It's something where I used to have another place before, which I was involved in. It was in Newark. It's called Café Opção. It was a much bigger place, 200 seats and, indoor, outdoor patio, and it was a very modern-ish take on, Portugal. I did a lot of, I personally wasn't in the kitchen 100% on that place. I was more overseeing and managing and doing that. But, a few things that kind of touched me is that I used to see, the younger generation come in and, they used to sit around and, drink coffees and sodas. And I used to just kind of, helicopter in sometimes on their conversations. And you would hear these kids like, oh, you're doing Raishu. Oh man, that's so corny, man. What the heck, dude? All that. And then I'm here thinking like, man, why is that corny? I don't understand. I mean,
Right.
Why? Because you got to wear this like flower stuff and you wear hats and things like that. I mean, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, dude, that's who we are. That's where we came from. And every culture has their own, folklore dance and traditional, tribal
right.
dance or whatever it is. And the Raishu is ours, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, this is the future. This is the future for Portugal. These younger guys don't think it's cool enough to do because their friends don't think it's cool.
Yeah.
But when you get older and they have kids, if we don't show people, and this is one of the main reasons, like I built Broa, was to show everyone, including us Portuguese, the younger generation, what we are, where we came from, that, listen, it's okay to dance Raishu or to whatever, or represent Portugal and who you are, because guess what? If you don't continue to pass down our roots and our culture to your kids someday, or our kids, or your kids that you're pregnant, you're about to have, who's going to continue that for us? It will just die out.
It's a great point. It's interesting that you mentioned that conversation that you overheard. I just came from 4 days in Tulare, California, which for those of you who don't know where it is, it's smack like dab in the middle kind of the state. It's landlocked. It's agriculture. It's very, very Portuguese. And for a Luso Education conference where we discuss this very, very topic, and what does the community look like moving forward? How do we need to come up with a plan that we can all execute that actually will engage all generations. So it was a very intense few days of really trying to answer these tough questions, right? Because, to be fair, I mean, so I dance Hanshu, right? And I do a lot of other things. But to be fair, and it's not for everybody, and they might think it's corny, but I will say it's not cool to shun it or say that it's a bad thing, right? So there's room for everybody, and so there's room for the traditional, and I think there's room for the modern.
Absolutely.
But it's a matter of how do you build the bridge, right? Because you can't have one without the other.
Right.
You can't.
We didn't start out. I mean, I guess back at 200 years ago, that was considered modern for in the day, right?
Right.
Now that's considered traditional, and we have the modern. But it's been an evolution, right? The modern dishes have evolved from something very traditional. So yeah, I to echo what Maria was saying with the chef she was speaking about in California, Zantelmo Faria, who has Uma Casa restaurant, which is San Francisco's first Portuguese restaurant, and it's doing phenomenally. The food is delicious, and yes, it may not be exactly how your grandmother made it, but it's still damn good, and you should go and try it.
I'm very familiar. He's actually been to Broa, believe it or not.
Oh yeah,
he purposely has been into Broa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we chatted a bit. He's Fun guy, yeah.
Yeah. So, you've talked a lot about how you bring that experience to your dining. So I would love to hear a little bit more about how you do that. Like, is there like some history written on the menu, or are your waiters like educated to like kind of tell a story as they're engaging with your patrons? How do you incorporate the history behind the dishes and, give them that experience of being in Portugal?
Well, I mean, for one, the place itself is, I mean, as you approach the entrance, you're met with Calçada Portuguesa right at the entrance. So right there is kind of like, and a lot of people immediately go, oh my God, remember these? From when they've been to Portugal, or all the Portuguese people are like, oh, that Calçada, and but the moment you walk in, everything is, everything, all the decoration. I mean, I have things that used to be my grandmother's. I have things that were my parents. I only play fado music or Portuguese music in the restaurant all the time, 24 hours. It's on always. I don't play anything else. I make sure it's on all the time. I maintain a little kind of little section in the restaurant with Portuguese books. I have, books from everything from, explorations I have, Portuguese school books. I have books that are, travel books that are translated Portuguese to English. In terms of the menu, Broa, is really a special project. So, because I try to maintain kind of things as authenticated as possible, I actually don't have a menu. My menu is created daily. I make the menu every single day, as if you were in a tasca in Portugal somewhere, and the chef is waiting for the fish to arrive off the boat, and she's going to prepare, or he is going to prepare the fish, and they're going to serve whatever, caldeirada de bacalhau, or
Right.
enguias or whatever, or they're going to go to the talho down the street and buy, fibras or whatever it is for the day. I operate exactly like that. So I buy.
That's
so
super
traditional.
cool. Wow.
That is
Yeah.
the traditional way. Because you cook what's in season, what's fresh, what's available. That's it.
Yeah, I do. My day is very long. For the moment, I'm, cooking every day until I'm able. I know I am looking for help, but until I'm able to find, some help. And I'm pretty stickler where, again, I'm not anti anything or any other culture or anybody else, but to try to stay true to origins, I'm trying to hire Portuguese people only, or Portuguese speaking people only, just because, throughout the night, as we're in service, we only speak Portuguese to each other all night long. Like, I speak
That's
to
awesome.
the waiters in Portuguese. I speak to the kitchen in Portuguese. We're all Portuguese. We all speak Portuguese. We ask for silverware in Portuguese. We ask, passa-me água, preciso de água, vai ali à mesa, So it's a full-blown experience,
It's total
and like I said,
Michael, it's total immersion. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, I find that it's the key to doing it right, is actually, I don't have TVs. I don't have anything else. So, I have curtains on the windows that, my idea was to immerse you so much in the experience that you were transported. And I believe that I've was able to do that. People, when they leave, they're like, oh my God, man, I remember, I felt like I was back at grandma's house again or something. It's amazing, and I think it's not just the food per se, but just the vibe itself, the music. I have the decor. I have things that, where my grandmother's had passed away over 10 years ago, and she passed away. She was already 98 years old. And
Wow.
I have like the key that was in her, that to open the door to her house, which is an enormous key. I keep, I have family photos all over the walls. When my mother was a baby, I have a photo where there's where in one photo there's my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my great great grandmother all in one shot. There's all these things. Just you're really submerged in the culture thing, and I don't have the TVs and I keep the curtains down. So when you're in, who cares what's happening in the world? It's not important. And who cares who's walking by or what car drove by? Like, you literally can't see anything but Portugal everywhere. And that's what was important to me, because, I want you to go in, and a fun fact is that what I can't stand when I'm out dining myself is seeing people sitting at an amazing restaurant or whatever it is, and you're just so techy and you're into your phone, you're not even talking, and you're just like, it's what's on Instagram, who posted what, and what is what, and whatever, and nobody at Broa is ever on their phone, ever. They're always talking and laughing, and it's just, people are so into what's going on, and that's, that's what brings joy to my life. And this project for me is nothing about money, has nothing to do with the money. No, I'm all about you first, and I think that then the money experience, it happens, it just comes with it. But I care about the diners. I care about what do you like it? And, and of course, as a chef, you want everybody to love what you're doing, and but it's a constant evolution. You got to evolve. And for me, I'm kind of going backwards in the culinary world, where I'm trying to evolve old school, where instead of evolving forward with molecular cuisines or anything like that, I'm just really trying to dig deep into, the Portuguese culture and heritage and food. And I'm always trying to figure out what to do. And, asking my other grandma, who's still alive and is around, she's 90 years old.
Wow.
And I asked her, how did you do this? And, papas, tomatada, and, things that people wouldn't like, what? How do you eat that? Why? Like, what the heck?
It's all delicious.
And the thing that makes me so proud, to be honest with you, is, I've had people, who've had babies, and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to bring them back for the Bro experience. This will be the first meal they ever eat.
Oh my gosh.
And people come in, and it is. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you guys. It's to see these young kids, 2 years old, 3 years old, sitting there eating caracóis and and eating pig ears and all types of funky stuff that we eat. It really, that is the most joyful thing. That that to me is success at Broa. Not again, not the money, but that experience, that just seeing that is priceless. I mean, 2-year-old kid eating snails. I mean, we know, we grew up eating them with the little antlers, and you're like, oh my god, I got to eat that. And these kids love it, man. They eat, and that's one of the things that I'm shocked at, is that the strangest things that I put on the menu are what sell out the quickest. And it's really amazing.
I'm thinking, really, of course, you're telling all of this, the menu there. Personally, I grew up. Well, of course, we all did. I mean, I know I did. I grew up with a bean stew that had the pig's ears. The pig's ears. My mom liked the pig's ears in it, as well as the trotters. So it would be, the pig's feet and pig's ears in this stew, this bean stew that my dad liked. And so, of course, I remember fighting over the pig's ears because they're crunchy. Really good, yeah. They're so freaking good, and they were crunchy because of the cartilage in it and stuff. And so I remember one of my early memories of when I was little was fighting over the pig's ears, because everyone wanted the pig's ears.
How funny, right? Oh,
But you
goodness.
you
Who would
say
ever
that.
think, right?
Yeah, I know, Angela. I know you're not fighting over the pig
No,
ears.
no, 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 no.
Say no.
Well, I was just
All right.
thinking, I mean, it's all what you're brought up with, right?
Right.
And if you are brought up from an early age, so if you're 2 and or younger and you've been given karakoys or pig's ears or whatever, I mean, that's totally normal for you. It's not a big deal. Me being third generation, we had those things so rarely that by the time I guess I remember even seeing it was almost like a show because we were watching my grandfather eat it, and it was like, oh my God, you could hear the crunch, and it was kind of gross. But it's all. I think it's amazing that you're bringing that stuff back, and frankly, I'm not too surprised that they're the first things that sell out, because I think for a lot of people, it's one of those things that you can't get unless you go to Portugal. But like, oh my gosh, if you go to Broa, you can get karakoys, right? Like, I don't
Right.
ever
It's a curiosity
remember.
generation.
Right.
Well, I don't ever remember seeing karakoys anywhere on a menu here in California. But as we've discussed on the podcast many times, California, is a little deprived when it comes to our options, mostly because of the size of the state, and we're just so very spread out. But no, I think I'm not surprised at all that those are the kinds of things that sell out. I don't know which fish they're called, but it's like where you fry it and you wrap the fish so that the tail is in the mouth.
Piscadinha,
Yeah.
whiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
I mean,
I
so
just
cool.
did that not that long ago, actually. Last weekend, actually, I had that on the menu. Yeah, I'm proud of where I'm from, where I came with, and
Now, I was going to ask you that, Michael. We didn't get to ask you. Where does your family come from?
Well, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Leiria, the city of Leiria. Yeah. I mean, they're known for they had a soccer team. We're from around that neighboring area. My mother's from a little area called the Barreiro Colmeias, which is around Leiria, and my father's from a place called Carangueira. And my parents were in Portugal. I mean, they were both born there. But then they went to France for 10 years, as most Portuguese people did, to try to get away from the communism style kind of thing we had going on.
Our dictator. Yep.
Yeah, and I have 2 sisters. They are older, not by much, but I have 2 sisters. They were both actually born in France, and fortunately or unfortunately, I was actually born here already. My parents came over 34 years ago, and I literally was born like a few months upon arrival.
Wow.
Here, so a little bit more. I would have been French myself. But I was brought up, and that's the thing also that kind of irks me now that we're on this topic, is that a lot of people, there's a lot of guys out there doing or trying to do what I'm doing or doing what I'm doing. Like Charles Mins, he's also a good guy I follow, and I'm always seeing what he's doing next. And a lot of people, judge him and criticize him. And a few people do it to me too sometimes, like, oh, you weren't born there, you're not Portuguese. But people don't understand that. Oh, I hate that. It drives me insane. I'm like, listen, I speak perfect Portuguese. I was kind of self-taught. I went to Portuguese school for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I still till this day only speak Portuguese to my parents. I grew up watching the Portuguese channel in a Portuguese neighborhood, going to the Portuguese cafe and eating at the Portuguese restaurant and reading the Portuguese papers and all that. So, I am Portuguese, very Portuguese, but I'm just, I'm very proud of where I come from, of who I am. And I feel that, who cares if you weren't born there or not, as long as, if your parents are, know where you came from, why, or, what was the reason, or, it's important to have that connection.
It's in your DNA, Michael. I can't stand those people.
Well, I don't understand where that mentality comes from, because it's like, there are people here, like the three of us, frankly, who I consider, we're more Portuguese than you are, because just because you were born there, you actually haven't done anything to help further the community or further the culture in any way. So just because you have, the birth certificate saying that you were born there doesn't give you any more credence over me.
Oh my God, believe me.
Born here.
Absolutely.
And so it's actually interesting, because the Diario Noticias has been doing a series for a year now, and I think it's going to run for another year because they did so many interviews. It's called Pela America do Tio Sam, and it's all about. I was on that, actually. Oh, you were? Yeah, so was I. It's been great. And the whole premise of the interview series is to dispel some of these misconceptions that people in Portugal have of the Portuguese people in other communities, specifically in the United States. And, who knows where these misconceptions come from or these assumptions come from, but to think less of us like we abandoned the homeland or something like that is just so ridiculous. And frankly, they should be grateful that we have continued to maintain our connections and want to raise awareness and make the world aware of just how amazing our heritage is. So, so people in Portugal, just quit complaining. Quit your bitching.
Seriously, knock it off, right?
Yeah, right. No, I totally am with you, and it's frustrating because for me, I don't speak Portuguese fluently, so that's even worse, right? So it's like, oh, but she doesn't speak Portuguese; she's not really Portuguese, and it's like, I've dedicated my life to this community, so don't you dare tell me that I'm not Portuguese, right? I've done more for this community.
Walk a day in my shoes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Walk a day in my shoes. You don't know what I've been through, or and we don't know or anyone. We shouldn't be judging anyone. Period. Everyone has their own struggles and their own ways, and I know I live day in and day out with mental struggles, and it's just what it is, and I'm fighting for Portugal and getting the word, and and again, it's what I tell everybody who comes in. I didn't build this for me. I built this for us. This is our restaurant. All us Portuguese, bro, is ours. It's not mine, and I just, it's a struggle, it's not for everyone. A lot of people don't understand it. Even people that are Portuguese and who, as you were saying, to touch on that, have been here for a long time, or were born here or moved here when they were like 1 year old. They've gotten so infiltrated in the American way, Portuguese American way, that I've had people come in like, this is not Portuguese. This is not it. This is not how it's done, because they don't know it any other way but the American way that's been presented to them. And I know, I just had a customer in on Saturday night. This woman barely spoke Portuguese, but she was born atrás dos montes, right? And she kept, speaking to me in a broken Portuguese, and I went with the conversation. She said, "Hey, tudo bem? Oi, sim, eu nasci no Torre de Montes," and we were just having our conversation. And you know what? I came here because I heard and I wanted to see it. And you know what? They had, what I believe was a stellar night and meal. They walked out, they came to, shake my hand and say, really, thank you so much for bringing me home. And, it was, that makes me feel good, and you know what, those people, and there's plenty of people like that. And as I was going to say, she hasn't been to Portugal, she said, in like 20 years,
Well, shame on her.
I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh, 20 years. And I said, really? Well, you really should go because there's a lot that's very different from when, you were last there. But, I appreciate people like that who, even though haven't been, she was able to actually, maybe think back when she was a child and came before she came and say, oh my God, I remember that, and what she did, she told me she remembered, But then there are those, people come in and who are just completely Americanized, and they can care less. They haven't been to Portugal in 20, 30 years either, and they're just used to the big, enormous steaks. And the thing that kills me the most is we've been overshadowed by Spain. And what kills me the most is that people call in all the time, or they come in and say, "Oh, you have paella?" And I'm like, No,
we're not a Spanish
I
restaurant.
have arroz de marisco if you want, but I don't have paella. And people are like, "Oh, okay." And that is one of those things that most Portuguese restaurants in the U.S. do have paella on the menu, and people think that is a Portuguese dish, and it's not. It is really not a Portuguese dish at all. It's a Spanish dish.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Portuguese make arroz de marisco, which is not dry; it's a wet rice with seafood, but it's slightly different,
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the kind of thing I do. I don't, in this project, I don't, I stick to my path. I follow my direction, and I personally don't care if you like it or not. I really don't. I do what I feel. What I feel is the right thing. What I feel is what it is. And listen, you don't like it, don't come. It really doesn't matter.
Well, it's very refreshing to hear that, because the majority of people do tend to want to please everyone. And when it comes down to, and I think Angela and I have had these private discussions, we cannot please anyone unless we are pleasing ourselves first. And that is making what we do and what we believe in. And that is, and make no excuses about it. I refuse to make any excuses, and I know that Angela feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do and what we feel and what we're working within the Portuguese community. And and I'm not going to say, "Oh, okay, I'll do it this way to make you happy." No, I'm not going to. I'm going to stay true.
I refuse.
But in something like that, it's very good to hear that more and more people are feeling that way. Because I think you're right. If you're passionate about what you're doing, if you're passionate about your goal, your end goal, the money will follow.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that if you're going in it for the money first, you're in it for the wrong reason. And it won't.
No, it's immediate. It's immediate failure.
It will not succeed. Yep. Now, for those that have been listening to us talking here, we are talking to the proprietor of Brua Cafe, Tasca Mercado, and it is located in Jersey City. We'll put all the information up, but it's at 297 Grove Street in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I am truly looking forward to visiting you very soon. So that will be an amazing thing. I'm looking forward to it. And
delighted to have you.
But Mondays you're closed. So
Mondays I'm closed, yes.
Yeah, so you have taken a day off to spend it with us here on this podcast.
I have indeed.
This is wonderful. I feel this is very wonderful, because I know on my day off, I usually don't really I really have my stuff that I need to go.
Guys, I'll see you again next Monday, all right?
Yeah,
Every Monday, catch us on the radio.
So we're coming up. We're coming up on the end, but one thing that we didn't really cover. Well, there's a lot of things we didn't cover. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Yeah, like you said, next Monday it'll be another.
But that'd be great. I'd be delighted.
You're, clearly so passionate about the food and the culture. How did this all get started? Did you go to culinary school? Did you start cooking with your mom and your grandmother? Give us a little bit of background about where that came from.
Just real quickly, I've done so many things throughout my life, my youngish life. I've done construction. I've worked for my father's business. Well, he's no longer has it anymore. He sold it, but I've been in banking, marketing. I've worked in television marketing. I've worked in a few things. I was very fortunate, early off in life. I'm a person who I throw myself at anything, and
So were you just trying to like find your path, or what was that?
I honestly, I don't know. I'm really like, I'm almost like Nike. I just do things. I just do it. I just throw myself, there has never been something that, you say, oh, you can't do this. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like if you told me, going back really fast to the food, it's kind of like, oh, can you ever have a roast cabidela, which is, the rice with the blood and
The blood in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had never in my life made it. First time I ever made it, I just did it. I had no idea what to do. I just did it. And you know what? I had several people taste it, my mother, my grandmother, and they were blown away. They were like, Jesus, how did you do it? And I'm like, I just did it. I just did it. I can't explain it. I just did it, and kind of throughout my path and doing many jobs and learning many things, I never really per se went to culinary school. I mean, I took some courses at the ICE, the Institute of Culinary Education, over in Manhattan, and it's located in Brookfield Place. I did some freshening up classes there and a few things, and it's so funny that a few of my classes, because I've been in the restaurant business since I was 21 maybe. I had my first place, I was like 21, where and that's kind of how it all started. So kind of rewinding the conversation a bit, I just kind of, after doing so many things, I love food. I love music. I love art. I love fashion. Originally, that I wanted to be in the fashion industry.
Yeah, where's the clothing line? The Casalinho brand. Come on now.
soon, chef coats near you. Chef coats near you coming up.
Right.
But unfortunately, when I was younger, growing up, my father said, no son of mine is going to be doing, a woman's job. You're going to work construction like me and do all this type of stuff. So that dream was kind of shattered. But eventually, as I got older and I did marketing and did a bunch of things, amazing. I've had some really amazing experiences. I was in between like some kind of construction projects I was doing on my own. And my family owned this property in Newark, or my uncle and a cousin, and they were converting it into a space. So, which was Café Opção. And they, I used to just stop in with them and I kind of helped them curate the place and designing and putting the space together. Then it started off to run kind of just like everyone, free for all, family helping out. And then one day I just approached him and as I was kind of ending my career in construction or whatever I was doing, I just decided that, hey, you know what? I really like this business, and I found that this business, just culinary world, the restaurant business is everything that I love in one place. I love food. I love creating. Yeah. I love decorating. I love fashion. I love people. I love talking. I love, everything, it's all in one place, and that's kind of what I do. Like Broa actually was designed by me. I built the place with my own hands with some friends, and I decorated the place also on my own. And that's the most fun part. And now I'm cooking in the place that I built, which is, how many people do that, around here? Normally a couple of, financier guys put their heads together and decide to open a restaurant and, buy out a chef to work in it and call it a day. Where, I built my place, piece by piece. I put that tile on the floor, myself with my own hands, So the place really means something to me in terms of like a stepping stone in that direction. And funny enough, you guys still there, right?
Oh, yes, we're listening.
Gotcha.
Oh, all right.
Oh, we're just letting you go.
Quiet there for a minute.
No.
Ironically enough, and this brought me to tears actually, a few months back, my mother was digging around through stuff and at her home, and she met up with me and brought me this letter. And this letter that I wrote, I was literally in like probably the sixth grade. And it was like, what would you do in your future, or what do you want to be in your life, and whatever. And believe it or not, in that letter, I stated, which I have that letter and I'm going to hang it in my home office, but, and I'm going to put a copy in the restaurant too. It stated that one day when I get older, I'm going to own my own restaurant.
Get out! That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to send us a
Crazy,
picture
man.
of that letter.
Yes.
I will. How crazy! I'm like getting emotional here. It is unbelievable. I couldn't believe that. Like I mean, it's not something I think about when I was in sixth grade, but to go back all, and have my mother like, look what I found, and I read it, and I just like, I almost like broke down, because I mean, how crazy is that? In sixth grade, it's almost like it was destined.
It
for me
was
to be here.
destined.
Pretty
How
nuts.
beautiful is that?
It's pretty amazing.
Your sixth grade year old self knew already, right, what your
right.
destiny was. And it's funny how you forget those things, right? And then all of a sudden it comes back to you to just reaffirm that you're doing what you were meant to do, right?
So I'm pretty much, to answer your question, I'm pretty much kind of, I guess, self-taught. I always kind of, followed my mother in the kitchen and watched what she did. I guess it was in the veins. It was meant to be, that I was supposed to be in this business. I really enjoyed very much, not just cooking. I find the cooking part of it is extremely therapeutic, believe it or not. And that's where I feel most at ease, is when I'm cooking and it's really busy. That's when I like it the best. I feel the best. But I enjoy the business itself, people, and doing and putting smiles on faces. And it's kind of like, if you came in for dinner and you didn't like something, again, we can't please everyone. I'm so dedicated to you and your experience that I tell the waiters, go ask them why. I want to know why. And I think that everyone should tell people why, because it only, how do you, if your child, once he's born, is doing something wrong and you don't correct them and say, hey, don't do this, do it this way. This is, I didn't like this because it was whatever, too salty, or I felt like it needed whatever, more pepper or, cilantro in it, tell me, because it's not for my benefit, really. It's for yours. I want to better your experience and everyone else to follow, or I'm going to go back and check, because we live in such a fast paced environment that, maybe, I forgot to do something, or maybe the guy on the line, made a mistake and it was just an oversight, or maybe it was just a mistake that one night. But, I want to know why. And I think that's an important thing that everyone should do in general, in the restaurant business when they go out to dine is, if you don't like something, say it, speak up, tell us why you didn't like it. It helps our business. It helps us grow as people, as individuals, as chefs, as restaurant owners, entrepreneurs, whatever. It's very important. So again, pretty much I'm just driven, self-driven, self-determined. And most of the time, I just look back at old cookbooks or ask for recipes, and I just do it. I just do
awesome.
it.
That's awesome.
I just put it together. I can't explain it. I really can't.
Well, it's coming to, I think we've gone over our hour already, but we have 3 questions that Angela and I always like to ask. And we'll ask you these three questions right off the bat. And the first question will be, what's your favorite meal? Like your favorite, like if you had your mom making you a dish right now, like your favorite. Second question is your least favorite. You're not even going to touch it. Don't even look at it. Don't even come near me with it. And last but not least, what being Portuguese means to you.
Okay, so my favorite dish, I'm obsessed with octopus. It is my thing, man. Any possible way done. I mean, if I could probably, even just razor slice it up and eat it raw. I mean, it's really, I mean, I love octopus. So in general, I will eat it any which way. It's
Nice.
actually, because I love it so much, it's actually one of my specialties at the restaurant. Octopus, I've studied it quite a bit, and I really enjoy working with it as well. So I would have to say octopus. Least favorite, man, that is a tough question, because I kind of eat just about anything. But it's
you
funny.
eat pig's ears, right? So I mean,
Yeah,
what's
I eat just about anything. But I'm gonna take you back. I'm gonna take you guys back like 25 years to one of my most torturous moments in life, where like Sunday morning breakfast, my mother, scrambled eggs, so she called it, and it actually was cow brains scrambled with eggs. Now my father loved that. Yeah. So she scrambled this all together, trying to, blindside me and my sisters. And we're sitting there, and I'm looking at these eggs, and I'm just saying, man, these eggs are very different. Right. Yeah, why are there red veins in my eggs? It's not okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, guys. Tell me about it. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, nah, bro, this is not, something here is not okay. So I'm eating this, and it's just a weird texture-y thing. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. And they were almost forcing me to eat this as a kid. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I don't remember, but it was a long time ago. So let's say that is the absolute least favorite thing in the world for me. I'm tortured.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to top.
Yeah, I think that's the worst one, Angela. I think that's the worst one we've heard so far. I think
gosh.
If there was awards to give out, I think you'd win it right there.
Oh my goodness.
And it'd be one thing if you were like an adult and, tried it or whatever, but giving that to a child and, oh man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It was talk about being 2 years old eating snails, eat cow brains. Come on.
Oh my God.
Right? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that was instilled in my brain forever.
I'm surprised you don't go to therapy for that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I might, call my doc when we get off the phone.
Wow.
And what being Portuguese means to me, oh man, it means everything. It means the world. I mean, I couldn't be prouder to, be anything else. I'm in love with Portugal. I really am. I'm in love with being Portuguese. And there's just, come on, 4 Manels in a boat took the seas and conquered like half the world. I mean, how can you not admire that,
Yeah.
And they, it's amazing what we did for such an itty bitty country. I'm not saying, we're better than anybody else or I'm better than anybody else. I'm just the same as the person next to me. I'm just the same guy as the guy working on the line next to me. I'm not superior to anyone, I admire what we've done as Portuguese people, and that's what it means to me. It means literally the world. We did conquer it at one point or another, and it's so rich. It's so rich in heritage and culture. It means, how can you top that? I mean, really, come on, go Macau, Guinea-Bissau, man, you name it. I mean, we have, all these things to share. And to rewind a bit, I do get a lot of people from Goa, and a lot of people from Macau come to dinner, a lot, more than I ever would imagine. And they love it and they admire it. And they even themselves think back when they were kids there. I have this couple who are, very Indian looking, completely. And, their last names, one is Fernandes and the other one is Pereira.
Wow.
And yeah, and we've become so close. They're from the neighborhood. They come in often, and eat sardines and all this stuff. And they're probably in their early to mid 50s, and they remember being kids and eating most of that stuff. And in fact, they've gone back a few times, and every time they come back, they bring me back a Portuguese go-in artifact, whether it be a jar or something. And I keep that stuff decorating at Broa.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a wonderful, wonderful talk. I've enjoyed every minute of it. So
likewise.
Likewise,
ladies.
You're a very passionate person, and it shows. And I wish you, and I know Angela feels the same, but we wish you the best and the most success. We really do, hon.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And for yourselves as well, and all of us. And, feel free to, have me back on whenever you wish. Like I said, I enjoy talking. I enjoy people. I can cover a lot of topics, a lot of subjects. We could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Thank you. I was delighted to be on. Thank you for having me. Just a note for everyone: follow your heart, follow your dreams. Be proud of who you are, where you came from. Live it. Don't be afraid to show people or demonstrate who you really are, where you came from, and keep your goal, intact, and reach for the stars. Really, and anything's possible.
That's beautiful.
That's a great message.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much.
You guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Até a próxima.
Boa tarde a todos.
Boa tarde.
Bom dia.
But bon dia, thanks so much. And as we wrap up, just a reminder to everybody to hit subscribe if you haven't. And the most important thing, please leave us a review on iTunes, give us a rating on iTunes so that other people can find and join in our discussions on our Portuguese table. And with that, as Michael said, follow your heart, follow your dreams. And until next time, até a próxima.
Até a próxima, querida.
Até a próxima.
Thanks again for listening to our Portuguese Table podcast.
If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so on SoundCloud or iTunes.
And all episodes can be found on our website at www.ourportuguesetable.com.
You can also reach us at feedback@ourportuguesetable.com with comments, questions, or suggestions.
Até a próxima!